We've got another
Yeah.
caller on the air that would like to join us here, guys. What do you think here?
What is that, Ken?
Yes, I believe it is
Ken Anderson. This guy, we talked briefly last week about safe riding, and Deb had an idea. Hell, let's just call him, and we got him on the phone, and he took time away from his schedule to talk tonight about safe riding and history of what he's doing, and how to be safer on the road. It's very important.
Yes.
Ken, are you there?
Yeah, how you guys doing this evening?
Just fine. Welcome to
Ken.
Born to
Welcome.
Ride Radio.
Ken, you are the man, from Ride Like a Pro.
Pro rider.
I mean, what am I talking about? Him, Pro Rider. I'm sorry.
He rides like a pro.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But continuing your ride, your riding
career.
Yeah, and it's just, safe riding is so important. And but first, let's get a little background on you, because when you talk about safe riding, you've done a lot of safe riding.
Yeah, this year's been a banner year, and I want to throw out an appreciation to Born to Ride magazine for just about everybody that comes through. We always ask them, so well, how do you hear about the class? And it's either Google or Born to Ride magazine, and you guys have helped us out a lot. We've had an entire year where the classes are full, and we appreciate that advertisement that Born to Ride's given. But I've been in law enforcement for 32 years. I've retired, motor instructor, and we've got a couple of presidential escorts under our belt, Dalai Lama. But what always comes back to mind is the average everyday rider. And some of the things that I watch when people come to our classes is just the way that they ride their motorcycles coming into the parking lot. And it tells you a lot about a person. But some of the things that we like to do as a group riding is charity rides, group riding, because it's about the brotherhood and the fellowship that you get with riding with other motorcycle enthusiasts, and you get to have most guys will say, well, you want to go to lunch on motorcycles, and it's a 300-mile ride. But one of the things I've noticed in the groups is some of the unsafe practices that we use. I mean, when you ride, I know living down there in Tampa and Clearwater area that you live in, Ron, we always joke that Florida has mountain riding also. It's called an overpass.
It's pretty flat here. Go down, take a right, and it's pretty flat.
Yeah, and it's one thing to ride on flat land, but it's another when you come up here to the North Georgia mountains where we've got ultimate riding. I mean, there's a lot of people that travel all over the place just come up here and ride, and they come up in groups, and just like us, we'll ride in groups, and we've actually had people from Florida come up here and ride in our group, and it's so hard to explain the difference in riding on flat land and in a group than it is switchbacks. We actually had a guy from Florida came up and rode our switchbacks with us, and the safest place for you to be when you're riding in groups is in the rear. I never like to be in the middle. I never like to be in front because you always have to worry about those people behind you. But when I ride in the rear, I actually observe people riding in front of me, and we've had this guy from Florida that left the roadway twice. And on the third time, he ended up on the side of the mountain. His bike was upside down, and he was laying down beside it. Luckily, he walked away from it, but group riding and mountain riding are totally different animals. But we like to teach people how to actually do curve negotiations, apexes, and some of the things that you have to be aware of when you ride in some of these charity groups is about the people that you're riding with. You don't know them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Ken, you said you were observing their riding. What do you observe? I mean, what do you notice right off the bat, or what are you looking for when you're judging somebody's riding capabilities? When you're riding behind them, what are you looking at for?
I watch the way that people take take curves. I look to see if they're covering their front brake constantly. And when I say covering, if you're on that front brake and you got 2 or 3 fingers just resting on that front brake, that's kind of a no-no. It's one of those things that you're anticipating trouble. And walking the motorcycle, when you come to a stop sign, you see people grabbing a hold of the front brake and kind of losing control at slow speeds. That's some of the stuff that I look for, but mainly is just curb negotiation.
Now, Kenna, your riding class, it's riding tips for skilled riders, and it's on their own motorcycle. How important is that? Because you can take those tests all day long in the back parking lot at a dealership, but when you get on the road and handle your own bike, that's a whole different story.
Well, Debbie, I'm glad you brought that up, because during this COVID, I can tell you that probably 30 to 40 phone calls a month I receive about people wanting to take the motorcycle endorsement class. It's usually a three-day class. We don't teach that. We teach advanced skill riding, and when you teach somebody how to do advanced skills on, say, a Honda or a Buell, which is easily afforded by people, it's kind of hard for you to go out and ride your Ultra Classic and do the same maneuvers. I know that.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Just about impossible.
Right, definitely.
I can tell you that I rode a Buell one time, and that was the only time that I rode one. I'm a big dresser kind of guy, and I like the way that they handle. But the importance of knowing that you can come out there and do skills that you've never done before on a big dresser. People call me all the time and say, well, I'm thinking about buying a small bike to start out on. Well, that's the worst thing that you can do, because once you learn those skill sets, you're going to say, I wish I had a bigger bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many times that they've come to the class and said the same exact thing. The fact that you can ride a motorcycle if you have the basic knowledge of clutch, throttle, and can maneuver a bike around in a straightaway is pretty good. But we teach you how to control your bike 100% of the time. I mean, to know that you can go into a parking lot that's fully crowded at Bike Week and know that you can maneuver your bike around without dragging your feet without walking that bike.
Duck walking.
Patty and I went to a charity ride one time, and I saw 3 or 4 people duck walking their bike through the parking lot, and they started lining up, and she started putting her helmet on, and I told her, I said, Patty, I said, just take that off. And she goes, well, don't you want to go line up? I said, yeah, we're going to line up way later.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things. You buy a $30,000 motorcycle, the last thing I want to do is walk it around.
Right.
Yeah. Ken, we have our editor, Dave Nichols from Easy Rider fame, over 23 years with Easy Rider. Is now the editor of Born to Ride. And he's on the phone, too. And Dave's been around the block a few times, so I'm sure he's got some input. I'd like to hear, what Dave thinking about safe riding, if he's got some stuff for you. Dave, you there?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, we used to do these videos, and we would go all over the country and shoot people riding. And so you notice things when you're watching other people riding and you're not riding, you're just shooting video of it. And you see certain things about how people ride and how they have learned to ride. And you go, oh, my God, look at the way this guy is all over the road. Look at the way that guy won't pick up his damn feet.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a cameraman who would go, just pick up your dang feet and ride, damn it. Because people drag their feet, and it's like, no, pick up your feet. You got to get used to the motion of the bike. You want to be able to, the moment that bike is moving, pick your feet up. And, the big thing is, that I'm big on is, I don't care if you're just going down to the end of the block, you put on your boots, you put on your leathers, you put on your gloves and your helmet, because road rash is no fun. I don't care what age you are or what you're riding, it's no fun if you fall over. And so put your gear on. That's one big thing.
You dress for
And
the
the other
slide,
thing-
not the ride.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of that, my question is, you know, we've heard all kinds of different things, but let's say you're on your motorcycle, it's a beautiful day, and you're coming up on a big right-handed curve, beautiful curve in front of you. You hit some gravel, your back tire goes out from under you. What do you say? What do you do? Do you push that bike away from you and get away from it? Or do you hang on to that motorcycle? I've heard both sides of this, but I'd like to hear it from the expert.
Well, the last thing you want to do is be real close to a 980-pound dresser. When it starts
Exactly.
tipping and rolling. So, in answering your question, I'd like to emphasize the fact that we use a acronym. It's called SIPPity, and I teach it in my class. It's called SIPPity, and you keep it in your head because it's easy to remember. SIPPity do all day.
Mm-hmm.
So, scan, identify, predict, determine, and execute. So when the entire time, and it doesn't matter if you're in the city of Atlanta. It doesn't matter if you're in the Smoky Mountains. You use that SIPPity the same way that you do in the city as you do in the country. So what it is scan, identify, predict, determine, and execute. So if you're talking about the gravel and the roadway, we teach our students to scan and identify that before they come up on it. Now, granted, sometimes you can't see everything in the roadway all the time. But if you're scanning, identify, predict, determine, and execute, scan, identify the problem, identify it, predict what's going to happen. So if you hit that gravel, you know that you're going to back your back tire or your front tire, execute an evasive maneuver, either a high-speed weave or either slowing down and just turning your handlebars and moving away from the gravel. But last thing you want to do is go down, especially in the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
on some gravel road. But it's some of the things, you know, Ron and Debbie and I met out in Atlanta. We had the Great American Bike Show, I believe it was, wasn't it, Debbie?
Yes,
Yeah.
Great American Motorcycle Show.
Yep, that was it. And we actually did some demos and stuff out there for them, and that's some of the biggest, I guess, friction that I get is you get guys that have been riding motorcycles for 30, 40 years, and they think that they can't learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest obstacle that I have faced is people tell me all the time when I was doing demos, they said, I've been riding for so long, what are you going to teach me? How are you going to teach me how to ride? And it's like, I'm not teaching you how to ride. I'm giving you skill set, the clutch, the throttle, and the rear brake. Staying in control of your motorcycle 100% of the time. The look, lock, and lean. And that skill set's going to make you a more confident and a better rider. I'm not there to teach people how to ride. I just want you to be a better rider and a safer rider.
And that's what your course gives. I mean, there's not a lot of people who can really make people, teach them how to ride, but they could learn how to ride, but how to enhance their riding skills to stay alive on those mean streets. And, you know, the most common accident is people turned left in front of that person, of the biker. And what are ways to get out of people? What can you do in a case like, how can you be more seen properly in the proper side of the lane, proper speeds? People are getting hit. People are coming in. You know what? Hold that thought. We're going to go to a break. Let's get that answer when we come back. Hang in there, Ken, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
You're listening to Born to Ride Radio on the Boss Hogg Radio Network. We'll be back momentarily with Mama Dukes, Ron Galletti, and Debbie Galletti.
And Dave Nichols.
Oh, yeah. Dave's on the line.
This is Boss Hogg Radio, home of Born to Ride Radio. You can join the motorcycle enthusiast conversation by calling 863-225-2000.
Check out the all-new Born to Ride. Check out the all-new BornToRide.com. TV with radio, industry, TV, adventure, industry, events, magazine, events, social media, magazine, much more. Social media, all new. Much Born to Ride.com. All new BornToRide.com.
Hi, I'm attorney Robert Rubenstein. I'm attorney Robert Rubenstein, and this is Rubenstein's rules for personal injury. Get an attorney. Rule number one: when you or a loved one have been injured by another's negligence, an experienced attorney can make a huge difference. At Rubenstein Law, we will find all of the insurance. Make sure your injuries are documented. Make sure your injuries are documented, and work to get you the best result. While each case is different, a well-known insurance company's own study showed people with a lawyer on average got more money. Call Rubenstein Law at 1-800-FLE at 1-800-FLE.
Find us on Facebook. Find us on TV and magazine. Ride TV and magazine. Multimedia biker experience. Multimedia biker experience.
You can join the motorcycle enthusiast conversation at 863-225-2000. Now, here's more of your hosts, Fester Jenkins and Mama Dukes on Born to Ride Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, and we still have Dave Nichols and Ken on the line, I believe.
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
Okay, I've got Ken. Dave's going to have to call back. Somehow I don't know what happened, Dave.
So we have Ken Anderson from ProRider Atlanta. And you know, Ken, we were talking about before the break, a lot of accidents happen. People are turning left all the time. What is there anything we can do on that? What, do you teach anything special, to people on that?
Yes, I do. And it goes back to the same old thing that we were talking about earlier, it's SIPity. Scan, identify, predict, determine, and execute. Number one killer of motorcycle riders is people turning left in front of us. One of the things that I like to do is teach what they call is a stale green light. I ask this question often in our class, and I say, anybody familiar with what a stale green light is? And a lot of people say no, but it's a light that's green. You see it green, but you don't know how long it's been green, so it's stale green light. You've got to predict that thing is going to turn yellow. You got to scan and identify that if there's a car in that turn lane, they're not going to set through another cycle of lights. Bottom line. So they're going to turn left in front of you, and that's what kills a lot of motorcycle riders. We teach when you're coming up to the light, slow down. If you don't know how long it's been there, slow down. If you're going through the intersection, when you get close, move your bike, move the handlebars back and forth and wave that light at them. Let them see it, because let them know that they're coming, that you're coming.
That's also a pretty scary area because a lot of people are parked there for the lights, so there's a lot of oil on the road. And so a lot of people don't want to be in the middle of the lanes. And then if it's raining or other, any other conditions, it multiplies. But that's probably one of the scariest things when you're about 100 yards away and you're coming up to that big intersection and you see that stale green. And then you got to also worry about, I would say, I do, who's in front of me? Is there a car that's going to stop as soon as that yellow comes down? Or do I need to move into a lane where I'm not blocked if someone stops short on me because I'm going to go through? There's a lot of situations there to look at, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that you got to think about, that one lane of travel that you're traveling in actually has three lanes. There's the left lane, the grease lane, and the right lane. So if you're on a two-lane road, the best position for you to be in is in that left lane against the double yellow line. So you can see down the roadway, and you stay out of that. When you come to a stop at a red light, you stay out of that grease lane, because the first, I believe it is 30 minutes of rain brings all that oil and grease up to the top. And if you've ever hit a white line or a white turn arrow when it's been raining, it'll make you think twice about putting your feet down.
Mm-hmm.
And, another thing I was just thinking about is when they're paving the road or doing road construction, they got that asphalt that's 2 or 3 inches uneven pavement.
Oh, that kills me.
And then railroad tracks are another one. But There's some hazards out there to look out for, isn't there?
Absolutely. You know, we talk about red lights and green lights, and I also want to express the fact that even though you're not in the city, if you're up in the mountains, what's the one thing, Ron, that people who work Monday through Friday like to do on the weekend out in the suburbs?
Well, get out and ride, or go party a little bit, or what?
No,
What?
I'm talking about cutting your grass.
Oh, cutting your grass clippings. Okay, I thought you meant the bikers.
I went right to the tequila. Sorry, my head was in the gutter.
Well, another thing I was going to say too is wildlife.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Debbie, that's why we're all friends. We were all going that same. We were all traveling that same road, but one of us took a right-hand turn.
But grass clippings, it's a big thing. You know, people bring it up more these days about watch out for grass clippings. How dangerous is that?
It's like riding on glass. I mean, and I've hit it before, and it's just the fact that you don't panic. As long as you have that skill set and that control of the motorcycle, just don't panic and just stay off the brakes and ride straight through it, as long as it's not in a curve. But the same applies in the country. Scan, identify, predict, determine, and execute. If I'm riding and I see a sweeping curve and it's in pasture land, more than likely somebody's out there cutting grass, or somebody's hit a deer. Somebody's dropped a ladder off at the top of their truck. You got to be aware of all that stuff when you ride.
Or a pallet of sod, right, Ron? We encountered that one time. A pallet of sod. We went right over it. It wasn't, 4 feet high or anything, but we had to take it head on. Oh, jeez.
I don't remember that.
I must have been riding with my boyfriend.
I remember when our...
you don't remember that one?
No.
Hey, Debbie, I remember that.
That would be memorable, I would think.
Damn, I mean...
We took it head on. It was
head on.
I think Kenny said he remembered
Yeah,
it.
he did. Whoops.
What about when the wheel broke? The back rim of Debbie's 91 Springer, we were both on it, broke going across the Crosstown Expressway.
Oh, yeah.
Performance machine, the rim actually broke. I thought
At the seam, it popped.
thought we were having a flat tire, so at the moment I felt it, I just downshifted, eased the brake, pumped the brake, and got off the highway, and we didn't flip over, but it was trying to push us over, and I just when I put my foot down at the same time because the pressure was just going crazy. But those hazards happen, man. You got to be ready. You got to be, you got to just always be aware of what's going on, it seems, Ken. And what you teach people is really how to stay more alive when you ride. And that's so important. If someone is out there right now that thinks that, oh, I know how to ride, no one can teach me, oh, man, what do you have to tell them?
I'm still learning in my classes. Some of the people that during the breaks, we'll sit at the table and we'll talk about personal experiences. And I'm telling you, it's a never-ending learning experience on that motorcycle. I mean, I listen to some of the people's wrecks, crashes that they've had, and they asked me, said, what could I have done? And sometimes there's absolutely nothing they always say about a motorcycle rider, it's not if you go down, it's when you go down.
Mm-hmm.
But what you want to do is minimize the damage when you go down by not panicking, staying in control of your bike, reduce a lot of the speed. Emergency braking is one of the biggest. I don't care if you can do a 360. I don't care if you can do a U-turn. But the biggest thing that we try to teach is learn about emergency braking. A lot of people don't have any idea about how to use their front brake and rear brake to get maximum braking power. But we teach that. And that's one of the things that has saved my life on duty many a times. If you're riding behind somebody and they see a yellow light, they're going to slam on their brakes because they know a cop's behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to use that emergency braking a number of times. And then I ride up beside them and say, hey, if you would have ran that yellow light, we'd have both been safe. And I said, I probably never even said anything to you.
Mm-hmm.
And they start laughing. But, I mean, people panic. They don't understand that sometimes it's better to go through a caution light than it is.
Yeah. What if you're behind them? They hit the red. They hit the yellow, and it turns red. Like, where they get through? Do they get pulled over for that?
Not by me.
Yeah, because it's safer than. That's what I would tell an officer. I'd say, look, man, they taught me in riding school to go through it, not stop short and flip the bike and roll it on the side. But what about those guys that go, oh yeah, I've wrecked this time, and I had that wreck, and I had this wreck? I mean, is that a problem with them, or is it well, man, it's just crazy. Is it circumstance? Can it be that many circumstances for someone to say they wrecked 4 or 5 times, Ken?
It could be lack of training, lack of knowledge. And I'm glad you brought that up, Ron, because we had 2 years ago, and this guy came, and I'm not going to name any names. This guy came to my class 3 or 4 times. He was so infatuated with the cone riding and the precision riding that we did that he was actually doing civilian motorcycle rodeos. And he lives, believe it or not, down the street from me, and I did not hear from him for a while, and he sent me a couple of pictures saying that he was going to the fire station to practice some of his slow maneuvers that he was doing. Hadn't heard from him in a while, and I'd come to find out a mutual friend said that he was on his way to the fire station to practice his riding, and there was a car on the shoulder of the road. And the car did a U-turn in front of him, at a dead stop, did a U-turn right in front of him, and he glanced off the car, hit a tree, and he was paralyzed from the neck down for a number of months. And I tried to contact him. The wife said that they really didn't want any visitors. And he called me out of the blue, and he called me to tell me thank you for saving his life. And it's kind of a touching story because he was such a great, aggressive type of person in life. I mean, I knew the type of guy that he was, and he just enjoyed everything that he did. And to know that he had broke his neck, well, the doctor said that he would probably never walk again. But he had told me in the hospital that I had saved his life because he did the emergency braking when the guy turned in front of him to make the U-turn. And then he did an evasive maneuver, and he took a lot of speed off of that motorcycle and ended up hitting a tree. Well, that's where most of his injuries came from. But the fact of the matter is that this guy is so aggressive in life, he's back up walking again.
Awesome. Gosh, I'm glad that had a good ending. Woo!
Yeah, that's a deep, hard story to tell people, and I don't use it in my class out of respect for him. But he told me anytime that he wanted to, if I wanted to come down and talk at a class, that he would come in and tell him exactly how that class saved his life.
Well, we age every day also, and our motor skills slow down a little bit, change a little bit. Our body weight changes a little bit. So just when you think you're one with a bike, except for Fester, he's got like a full head of hair over here. It's all spiked up. But you become one with that bike, and then you start aging and changing. You notice the balance is different a little bit. You put on a little bit of weight. Just things change, and it's good to stay up on your skills just to adapt to your aging lifestyle too.
Well, Debbie, you're right, and we tell everybody that is what do they call them, fair weathered riders. A lot of people put their motorcycles up in the wintertime. It starts getting a little warm, and the next thing you know, you get out there and try to do the same thing that you did prior to putting the motorcycle up, and it's just not there. Riding skills is a perishable skill with motorcycles, and that's why at my class you can come back for an entire year and practice with it. I mean, because it's a perishable skill. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it. And it's the old saying, you got to knock those cobwebs off of that bike and off of you before you get out there and try to do the same thing. And it's funny that I've got 4 motorcycles, and I want to brag on this. I just got through buying a Springer 2007 CVO, which totally is against every bike that I've ever owned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a sharp-looking bike, but it handles totally different
Heavy front
than any
end.
of the bikes that I teach on.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that spring. I look good on it.
Heck yeah. Ken, I was going to ask you, what's the ratio now for women riders? I know that a lot of new ones coming on, but how many are taking your class and getting that advanced class? And what would you say to, not just women, but I'm talking about women right now. So what would you say to some women that are listening right now? How important is it to take a class like yours to help them ride, or any novice rider? But the ratio, the women are probably over a third of the market right now, and putting a big impact on the industry.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's ladies now that have never ridden a motorcycle that are in that, I guess as far as a guy, it's one of those, you buy a Corvette, what do they call it, midlife crisis?
Mm-hmm.
They're buying motorcycles, and they want to learn how to ride. Or if they've ridden when they're younger, they're buying motorcycles. Women on Wheels is one of our big supporters. We had an entire class with Women on Wheels here in Georgia, and they came out, and they had new riders, they had old riders. We had 2 ladies come out this year that write for other magazines and little tidbits here and there, and she actually rated our school one of the best schools that she took. And she's been riding for 17 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you see more and more ladies now on their own bikes instead of riding behind the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Awesome.
And big bikes too. Just the bigger, the bagger, the better.
Well, that's another question I had, is everybody in the old days, you say, oh, you're a woman, get a Sportster. But there's a lot of ways to make a bike fit the person, the size, and the balance factor, and the braking. And it's important to have a comfortable bike first off, and not riding something you're not comfortable with.
Ken, what's your position on being able to ride a bike and stand flat-footed, seated and everything? In other words, I mean, you got an opinion one way or the other on that?
I do, and I teach in our class. There's one thing to put both feet down flat-footed. It's a thing about confidence, but I think that, I ride Harleys. I've got Ultras, Road Kings, and the new Springer, which I look good on. And then
we're going back to that.
Did I mention that? But my 2014 Road King is a little higher than the 2002, so I don't stand exactly flat-footed. But I think if you're standing flat-footed, especially for newer riders, I think it's a vote of confidence for you. I've jumped on some of the dual sports, and I can tell you, as many years as I've ride and as many classes I've taught, I don't feel comfortable on some of the dual sports because they sit a lot higher. I mean, I have to stand on my tippy toes.
And generally, men usually have shorter inseams than women do, right? Oh, I'm just guessing.
Let me bring in Dave Nichols as a publisher and an editor. A lot of magazines really don't even care about safety. They just whatever. But Born to Ride has always taken a stance to talk about safety and keep people aware. How important, David, has that been with your publications and things that you've done in the past to really get into the safety aspect of riding, to get home alive?
It's the most important, thing that you can do for your readership, because you want them to hang in there and be with you for many long years.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you do that is you teach them how to be safe out there on the road. Easy Riders started a bait back in the 70s, and it was not, today we think of a bait, we think it's an anti-helmet organization, but it really was not when it started. It was all about safety, and it was all about having safe motorcycles. It was all about having, if you had a custom bike, because, we had a lot of choppers in Easy Riders, but it was about being safe even if you have an unusual motorcycle with a long front end, there are ways to be safe on your bike no matter what you're riding. And that was integral to, that's what we wanted to keep driving home to people. And so whether it was at one of our bike shows where we had seminars or at the V-Twin Expo, we always tried to push safety in all the different ways that you can be safe on two wheels.
Yeah, and, it's important, and I think that, like Dave said, you want people to be around for a long time to share the fun and the lifestyle. Speaking of the lifestyle, Ken, whenever the celebrities come into Atlanta, Georgia, I just saw you with Shaq not too long ago, man. You're whining and dining or hanging out with those celebrities, man.
Because he looks good on that Springer. Everybody's after his tail.
They're like, are you doing the details and there's special rides and they're calling you out. Don't you work with the movies and people like that in entertainment?
Yeah, we do. I do. Even though I'm retired, it's an honor to do funeral escorts, especially for the fallen. And Georgia National is one of the burial sites up here in North Georgia. So I've decided to do some escorts with the cab motor escorts. We do funeral escorts for civilians and military. And then some of the stuff that we've gotten into is the movie industry and commercials. And that's where we've got to meet a lot of people. Matter of fact, I worked Bad Boys 3 and, like you said, Shaq and a few other celebrities. But it's glamorous. It's nice to hang around and rub elbows with some of the movie stars.
Now, this weekend, Shaq's supposed to be in town for the Survivor Strong breast cancer survivor benefit. And that's going to be at the Motor Speedway, Atlanta Motor Speedway. It should be a big, big event. That's a pretty cool place, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably about an hour and a half from north of the mountains from where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
But he is a huge supporter. I mean, Shaq is one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. He's like really pro police. He takes the time out if he's doing a commercial or a movie or anything like that. He takes the time out just to meet the people in the neighborhood where he's filming at. And I've always enjoyed and appreciated. If you look at that picture, he's standing with his hand on my shoulder, and his hand is as big as my head. No lie.
Yeah, he's like an honorary police sheriff or something. Different cities or.
Yes, he is. I think it's Clayton County. I mean, not Clayton, Covington.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a question for Dave.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave, have you ever ridden one of those long rake chopper motorcycles? I've never. But one of you might have.
Yeah. I owned a 16 over Denver's chopper that was a rigid frame chopper, 16 over front end. So it was a long bike. And the thing is, though, if they're built properly and if they're set up properly, you can turn the bars all the way to the left and then do just little circles in the parking lot without putting your feet down because they're perfectly balanced. They don't flop. They're not heavy. And the frame, even though the frame is rigid, it flexes. So it actually feels more comfortable than the original Softails did. And so, yeah, I've owned a number of long bikes of different kinds, and some are better than others when it comes to their rideability. But, man, I'll tell you, I've never had a problem. I've been very blessed that way. I know there were bikes that were built, especially during the chopper era, after American Choppers was on TV on Discovery Channel. Everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry had a chopper shop out there. And there were some god-awful bikes built that I would not put anybody on.
Manufacturers, too, are out there.
Right, right. I would say if people are interested in that kind of a custom bike, you want to go to someone who's been doing it for 50 years, like Mondo at Denver's Choppers. He knows what he's doing, and he'll he'll put you on a bike that has the look you want, but you'll also amazingly be safe.
Yeah. And the reason why I was asking is because, like you were saying, when you start to turn that front handlebar, even on the Springer, I mean, it doesn't have that long of a rake, but even on the Springer, if when you start, well, I've got 14-inch apes on it also, but when you start to turn that handlebar to the left, like I do with the Road King, it almost feels like there's a fairing on the front of it, and it kind of pushes over to the left when you turn to the left, and it's like dropping to the left.
It's flop heavy, yeah. But you don't have that if they're set up properly. The original stock Softail Springer, it was heavy in the front end, and that's not right. They're not supposed to be that way.
That's what I rode for many years, and I looked like a football player with the neck muscles. I had drag bars.
Oh, your 91 Springer.
And those Springers, they have a huge a head.
The spring, the main spring?
No, the bolt, the bearing, a big head bearing in it. When that thing goes out, you better hang on because you get a wobble when that bearing goes bad. It's like the size of a golf ball, one big bearing.
I remember that. I remember that. I didn't remember the thought. I still did. But Ken, we're coming to the end of the show. It's been an amazing show, but there's people out there listening right now who ride every day or monthly or just once in a while. What can we tell these people, that really care about what the knowledge you're bringing today? Can you give us some more points to what to look for? How to stay, I keep saying this, how to stay alive on the mean streets?
Well, you can never stop training. Never stop trying to learn about how your individual motorcycle handles in slow speed and under pressure. If you're riding with your wife or your girlfriend on the back, make sure that you know that they're aware of if you're going to have to do an emergency brake. I mean, if you're just sitting back there looking at the blue skies and I hit my emergency brakes and you're just going flying right over the top of me, that's not a good thing. So ride smart. This is what I tell everybody, put yourself in a position to succeed, whether you come to a red light, stop sign, or if you're riding your motorcycle. Always use your real estate to the best of your ability. When I say real estate, it's the road. Never just sit there and ride in that grease lamp. You don't know what's there.
What about tire pressure or rubber on your tires? How important is that? I mean, safety checks.
Oh, yeah. There's Motorcycle Safety Foundation, if you go online, it's called a T-clock checkout, and it looks like a long sheet of paper that you're supposed to check out. If you learn it real quick, it takes you about 5 or 10 minutes. Air pressure, if I know I'm going on a long ride, they've got air guns now that you can buy. Throw that in your saddlebag. Check your air pressure all the time. Went up to the mountains and tried to do a curve with 20 pounds of pressure in my front tire. Motorcycle wanted to stand up and push out to the side. And it's all because of stupidity on me. I didn't check my air pressure.
Yeah,
wow, good stuff.
Anybody else got anything, Fester?
Yeah, we're coming up to the end of the show. Just want to thank Ken and Dave for being part of Born to Ride Radio tonight. Certainly welcome back anytime, Ken. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And his site is prorider.atlanta.com, so you can get more information there on his site as well, too.
Yeah, this is...
Born to Ride magazine does my website, and they're a top-notch crew.
Well, man, this people is a different show tonight because we care safety. We wanted to bring a professional like Ken who has a great company and a business, and he's a friend. And people ride safe out there. Anything else on the way out, Ken? Just thank you so much for being a part of the show today.
Yeah, tell Bruiser I said keep striking them out.
All right.
Oh, there you go, man.
Ken's a softball.
You're an Iron Man.
Player.
Yeah, Ken's an Iron Man baseball player,
that's
too.
That's right, yeah.
And we had some great times together.
Well, we appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Guys.
All right, man. Keep up the great work.
Everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And everyone, Stay safe. Keep it in between the ditches. Until next week.
If Instagram is your thing, we're there. We're everywhere. Follow us at #Born to Ride Motorcycle Media, your #1 motorcycle resource.
Yeah, I have to say, Born to Ride has been a big influence on my trailer sales in the last 2 or 3 months. It's been nothing but a big surprise. I mean, the magazine articles, everything in the commercials, it's been nothing but the best of help to me in my business.
Is your business becoming invisible? Create a great advertising relationship today with Born to Ride. Call 888-795-5779.
This is the Boss Hogg Radio Network. 1170 AM WKFL Bushnell. 1330 AM WWAB Lakeland Plant City. 1360 AM WHNR Cypress Gardens Winter Haven. And 1390 AM and 107.5 FM WAVP and W298BU FM Avon Park.